lot of us, when we first start during a bull market, you think that's the whole market, but everything changes.
Meet Juan, a successful nuclear engineer who is now a six-figure after-hours day trader.
I was working, so it wasn't until like after hours I would look at the market, concentrate more into it. The more time I spent on it, the more profitable I became.
He's recently crossed over
400 not too long ago, and I think I'm pretty close to 500 now.
He's going to reveal his strategy for you all, along with all the lessons he has learned and helping him stay consistent. What is your strategy? Is there a specific style or security that you focus on?
I mostly focus on...
Wow, this number really blows my mind. Over 75% of you who watch the show regularly are not subscribed. If you enjoy the show and want to support us, the easiest and also free way is just to hit that subscribe button. This will help us find new and better guests, and I promise you to continue to work at making this show better and bringing you more value. Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today is going to be a great day because I have a special guest, Juan. He is a trader who's been trading, I believe, since 2020, and he was an engineer before. And so he's going to dive deep into the story today and tell you how he was able to leave his job and maybe if he left too soon. So, Don, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So take us to the beginning, man. Like, what got you into the game since you had a great career? And let us know, the people know what your career was.
Yeah, everything was good. I couldn't complain. I went to school for engineering and then went to grad school, got my degree in nuclear engineering. And I had a pretty decent job, but I'm still not a U.S. citizen. And so a lot of the jobs that came with nuclear engineering, I was losing a lot of opportunities. It was just frustrating, and I needed to find something else. And couldn't tell you how it happened, but I think I ran into some ads. I started doing a little bit of crypto in 2017. I mean, it was up and down and never really made any money on that. But I ran into Tim Sykes' some ad online and kind of just got hooked into it and started doing it. At first, I just started following alerts. Didn't really work out, and then it wasn't until like late 2019, early 2020 that I got myself together. I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta do a little bit better than just following alerts and actually learn the process. And it took a while. I was up and downs, and I was never really I was taking very small risks, so very slow, gradual increase in the amount of money I was trading with. But so far it worked out, and that kind of puts less stress on me. So just building myself slowly.
What were you risking when you at that moment in 2019, 2020?
I think $15 per trade.
Yeah.
Literally barely anything.
What size was your account at the time, if you don't mind sharing?
It was probably $1,500, $2,000.
Okay. So you're still risking about 1% though.
Yeah, it was very small. Yeah.
Let me ask you though, was it you had more money stashed aside just in case you wanted to start to size up, or is that the actual amount that you grew? Just curious.
Yeah, that's all I had. Okay. And then because of the day trader role, I couldn't trade more than 3 trades. So, and I didn't have 25,000 back then. So yep. slowly I was growing and, deposit and open other accounts. So I had several accounts with 2,000 on each account. And that allowed me to do more trades per week.
So at the beginning, you were just chasing alerts, just like most of us do in the beginning when you see these ads and you go into these rooms, you're like, okay, I can make money. When you said that, I realized that that's not going to work, I need to get more serious. What did that really mean for you, get more serious? What did you change?
It means actually not getting, it's just you can't really be day trader if you just kind of winging it all the time. You might get lucky. I mean, if you're 2021, I mean, it didn't matter what you knew. You just bought anything and everything went up. But at that time, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should get up early, set up a watch list, see what I'm doing and this instead of just logging in at 9:30 exactly and just trying to find a trade. You just kind of like put more time into it, watch video lessons and watch other videos and ask questions and learn from other big traders and stuff like that. Just kind of put more into a little bit of everything, just put more time into it, just in 1 or 2 hours per day. And that wasn't going to cut it, at least for me.
By now, you know our show is sponsored by Cobra Trading. I use them every day and for good reason. I love the fast execution and the great customer service. And it's not just me saying this. Both Benzinga and Forbes Advisor awarded Cobra Trading best in class ratings in multiple categories for day traders. You can sign up now with the Be the Trader link below, and Cobra will give you 100 days of free commission, 3 months of free software, and 33% off commission for life. I know you'll be as happy as I am when you trade with Cobra. Now let's get back to the show. What is your strategy for those who are curious right now? What do you trade? Is there a specific style or security that you focus on?
I mostly focus on small caps and my, I guess you can call it my bread and butter when I first kind of like with a light bulb, something clicked. It was gappers. Strong first green days, gappers that have potentially for gap up. And that's how I started and started analyzing like what makes a stock gap up? What are the chances that this stock's gonna gap up? And that's what I started concentrating. And I still do that nowadays. December was really good for gappers. Like a lot of stuff was gapping up.
And and so you were working at the time while doing this, right? Right, while trying to figure out the gap up strategy.
Yes, I was. I was still full time at my job, and it wasn't until early spring of 2021 that I left my job. Maybe a little too quickly because I didn't have the funds, but it was either I got to do this full time, and I guess the end of 2020, early 2021, I made some decent money. I wouldn't say great money, but something that allowed me to like, okay, well, I got to take the risk and leave my job and just concentrate this on full time.
Were you prepared to leave your job? Like, did you save? Like, did you have income or something?
Um, I wouldn't say I wasn't 100% 100% ready for it, but it was it was working out everything. But I guess I kind of learned the lesson in 2022. Not
Hmm.
every, not all markets are bull markets, so that was another learning curve. 2022.
Okay, so what happened in 2022? Because you
So a
mentioned,
lot of
yeah,
the
go ahead.
things that I was doing and wasn't working
Hmm.
basically. Less opportunities. You have to be very precise. You have to be very cautious because things weren't just going up like in the during the COVID 2020 2021 kind of thing. So a lot of things changed.
So does that mean your strategy, you weren't trading it, or you were trying and it just wasn't working?
I
Like,
was trying and I would win money and then I would lose it. I would win and I would lose it. And that's what it was. And I think it wasn't until like end of 2022 that the market started kind of changing. And but it was definitely a big learning curve to
what
be
what
more
what did you
precise.
learn? Like, what was the big lesson that you took away, and how did you make it the change?
I think understanding how markets and sectors come and go. It could be for a week, could be for like 2 weeks. And I think a lot of us, when we first start, especially you start during a bull market, you think that's the whole market. But everything changes. It could be a week, 2 weeks. Like last month, we had the quantum sector. It was just going up, and it just wouldn't come down until I think a few days ago it finally like came down big time. But that kind of pushed a lot of stuff up. But from my experience, I understand like this isn't gonna last. So it's gonna come a day. It's gonna everything started coming down, and I actually wanted it to come down because I needed a break.
So
That's what it came down to.
let's go back a little bit though, because I
Okay.
want to know what were your, you said you started to get more serious
Uh huh.
and you started to spend, more time and studying video lessons. And you said you hit a light bulb moment in finding the gap up strategy.
Hmm.
What were some of the things that were holding you back when you found that strategy? You might have found the strategy right, but maybe you weren't like killing it right away. Were there any habits that you had that really held you back from really growing at that, even when you found the strategy?
Yeah, I think going back, that was 2020, like mid 2020. I was trading this, I was trading this setup, that setup, a lot of things. And I would win, I would lose, but it wasn't consistent. I wasn't like losing money because I was barely trading with a really small account, and every trade was a very small max loss. But I couldn't get myself going like a momentum. It wasn't until I can't remember the stock, but I bought it and it gapped up like 50%. And I'm like, okay, well, this is my biggest win ever. It's like there has to be somehow a lot of stocks gap up, but what makes it gap? And that's where I started collecting data. I was collecting a little bit of data before that, but it wasn't consistent. And it wasn't until that one day that I kind of like there has to be a strategy and start collecting more data, analyzing stocks and stuff like
Can
that.
you compare? Can you give us a comparison of what you were collecting before you did that, and then what you started to collect after the fact?
Maybe I had like 5, 6 stocks, and okay, this is what it's gonna do. This is what it's gonna do. But I didn't really have a strategy. Like I need to go more in depth into it. And after looking at so many parameters and criterias and everything, you kind of start understanding what makes this strategy profitable and that kind of thing. One of the big things was volume. I mean, that kind of like didn't really consider it that much before. Volume, liquidity, and that kind of stuff. And the bigger the market cap, the less likelihood that it's going to follow your pattern as well. Completely different game.
So market cap, volume, liquidity. Was there any other things that you started to track that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, like we go more in depth into it. I mean, the stock has to be kind of like look bullish. Like the closing price has to be higher than the opening price. You have to have that daily green candle. Also, you don't want it to have a big crack throughout the day. Um, Also, you don't want it to be closing too low from the VWAP area kind of thing, from the consolidation. If it's closed below the consolidation area throughout the day, I kind of just ignore it nowadays. It's more like it's probably just gonna keep going down, or it might bounce, but it might not. Kind of thing.
Now, just based off your experience, because you mentioned in the beginning, 2020, 2021, you were like, yeah, this is great. And 2022 hits you in the face. Do you, would you say if there's a certain cycle, let's just say it just seems like a bearish cycle, or like, are you thinking in your head, it's bearish right now this week, this everything seems to be dying, and if you see a gap up first green day that could be a good play, it hits all your check marks, are you still trading it? And if you are you still trading with the same size, or do you approach it differently because you've been feeling the sentiment of bearish?
It depends. Like if the market doesn't have to be completely bullish, but if all the criteria are there and everything fits what it's supposed to, I will probably take the same size. I guess it'll come down to the afternoon if I see anything like that. Then
So
I'll
then in 2022, what was the difference then? Because you got hit. Is that because you didn't have all the criteria you have now, or is it because you weren't as strict with the criteria? Like you
I
weren't
wasn't
being
as
disciplined.
strict. I think that's what it came down to. Yeah. So and during the bull market, you don't have to be perfect. You
Yeah.
can just like kind of like, oh, okay, this fits 3 out of the 4 criteria. Then I'll okay, and it's
I'll
gonna
take
work.
it.
It's gonna work. During a different market, that's you kind of need to be more strict.
Would you say you're strict now, regardless of if it's a bull market or not, or do you get loose now when it is
It
like
depends on
everything
the
is?
market. I guess
Okay.
right now, because we kind of ending, we we're still everything's still kind of hanging, so it's kind of like I will probably be a little more strict right now than I was in December. December was
Okay.
like a, crazy month, and so right now I'll probably slow down, like be more strict and be very precise with what I'm buying and what I'm selling. I'm not gonna say I'm perfect because like I still make mistakes. I will try
Hey.
probably
Yeah.
small. I'll do like a startup instead of a full position.
So that's what I was going to ask you next. Like let's just say December, it's a boom, like everything's freaking going. Are you taking in and let's just say, as you mentioned, some things could be going and they only have 3 out of the 5 criteria. We're just making that number up. 3 out of the 5 criteria and the other ones have 5 out of the 5. Are you still trading them all the same size, or are you trading the 3 out of the 5 with a slightly different size versus the 5 out of 5?
No, it's a same size. Like if I'm doing one stock and another one, I will probably do the same size. And then there was a few times I kind of ran out of buying power anyway, so it just came down. If I had four stocks, I would just concentrate on three and ignore the other one because I don't have any more buying power.
Whenever the market is in your favor, you'll trade them all the same size, regardless of how many check boxes it selects on your criteria. But if everything's in the negative, like bearish, everything's not really working, then you still would trade the same size, but you're being more strict, so you're trading less.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So how do you visualize? How do you handle risk? And and when I say that, like, what do you implement any type of rules, whether it's max losses or whatever it might be?
Yeah. So it depends on the pattern. I have a specific risk or max loss for a pattern, but it's different for another one because it might not be quite there yet. It's more like how you feel comfortable, how much you feel comfortable losing on this specific trade.
Can you give us an idea? So for newer traders to kind of understand and learn, because again, we have a lot of new traders watching, and
Okay.
we want to bring value to them, and make sure they understand what you mean by that. So could you kind of give us an example of what you mean?
If we go back, I was watching this one the whole day. This is XTIA, and I missed this right. I missed it right here. I wanted to buy it, but I was just too late. It was up already. But little did I know, it just kept going up, and it was just hard. But it's still everything just fits. And I started buying it after hours because I completely missed it throughout the day. And just buying this dips, and because the volume was massive, 1.5 billion,
Hmm.
and the likelihood that the market conditions and everything, it's just this is going to gap up, and it did. I think I sold it, most of it, right here actually. Bought at 11, sold it around 16. I'd even like take it overnight.
When you're buying it at 11, what's your idea in terms of risk, especially in the after hours session? Like, how do
Yeah.
you manage
So I
that?
have for after hour, if I'm going to swing something, um, I tend to, one way to control my size and my risk is I always position myself based on mostly the consolidation area, or in this, or VWAP, and that kind of gives me a good idea. So when I was buying in this area right here and right here, I was basically risking about 7 cents. However, it doesn't mean I'm gonna wait till 7 cents to cut it. It's kind of like different. Basically, if I start seeing this just keeps going down, going especially below the closing price, I will probably just start cutting it and don't not wait for 7 cents. Because in the past, I experienced so many different stocks that there's no reason. I can always get back in, if it starts holding. But if it starts like, going below this closing price, most likely it's just gonna keep going down.
So
That's
you
one
basically,
way
yeah, go
to
ahead.
control my risk and my position size.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is your style? I know when you first started, you really, because you were working at the time, you were primarily trading in the after hours and
Yes,
pre-market session,
yeah,
correct?
that's correct.
And That's something that's very valuable for a lot of new traders who are working full time, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, "How do I trade? I can't. I can't trade during the open because I'm working a full time job." Could you explain why you trade at the after hours and pre market and how it can be useful for someone who is working a full time job?
Yeah, I think one of the things was at the beginning I didn't have $25,000 in my account, so by buying after hours and selling the next morning, that kind of saves you from one day trade. That was one thought, but I think the most of it came down to the fact that I would work throughout the day, so I didn't have a lot of time. Even if I look at the market during the day, I wasn't like concentrating on it
Hmm.
because I was working. So it wasn't until like after hours I would look at the market, concentrate more into it. And the more time I spent on it, the more comfortable I became of it. And that's one of the reasons this is kind of like how I started it and what became profitable for me.
Is there any words of caution for people who try pre market and after hours trading that you should give them?
Yes, so I don't really trade pre-market at all unless I'm selling stuff or I'm buying the dip. For instance, for this one, let's say I would have held it and I would have sold it and maybe I would have bought this dip right here again, you know, below 14 or maybe 15 kind of thing. Because this, I already had this run right here, and that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence. I feel more comfortable. If I would have completely missed this, I probably would have ignored it just because my mindset is just not there. It's more like a
Hmm.
FOMO type of trade. So yeah, you have to be very cautious. You still have to know what you're doing. I mean, you could buy here, but it could easily just keep going down. I've seen stocks like they literally just drop 50%.
Yep. And what I want to find out is, you know, what were some of your biggest challenges for yourself before you found consistency? Because it sounds like you found consistency around like 20, is it 2020 and 2021?
Yes, you can say that. Yeah.
Okay. And you left your job in 2021, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And when you left, it's because, you said you made some decent money, nothing to like, as you mentioned, like nothing huge, but you felt like it was time to take the risk. But you also felt like you might have done it too soon. Could you share some wisdom there? What you mean by that? Like for those who might be thinking about leaving their job, and if after they find like, let's say, 6 months of consistency or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think it would have been okay for me to say because a lot of the on day trading it becomes a mindset. If let's say if I would have stayed at my job, yes, I still would have like the struggle with the lack of time to concentrate. But in the back of my mind, I would have had that thing where it says it's okay if I lose on this trade because I'm still have that constant income from my job coming in. So I'm still in the learning process. It's okay. When I left it, now it just become a reality kind of thing. It's like, okay, well, either I make it or I make it. I have no choice. And that kind of put pressure on me. And maybe that kind of like the slow down on the amount on the risk and the growth. But it's hard to say because everybody's different.
Whenever you left, did you hit a struggle like in the first month or two, like because of your mindset? Like, I have to make, like, did you try to force things? Did you try to, like, I'm just curious if anything happened.
Yeah,
Like,
I
you're
think
doing well, you leave your job and you know how to trade, but did you start to break some rules or, I'm just curious.
I left it in March 2021, and I think April. I think either I went slightly red on that month, or I just didn't make any money. So I think May I kind of like got myself together again. It was a constant battle, up and downs at the beginning,
Yep.
and a lot of it has to do with mindset and everything, the psychology of trading and everything.
So people are going to hear you say mindset and they're going to be like, oh my God, people always say this mindset. Like they always talk about mindset. Could you explain why you believe the mindset is like so important?
Yeah, trying to think of an example.
Sure.
So there's a lot of factors going. I guess it depends. There's no real definition. Depends on what. Um, Basically, sort of a, like forcing a trade. So when I left my job, now day trading is real. Now that's my full time job, which means I have to make money. As a result of that, having that, that thought that I have to make money, that will lead into mistakes, forcing
Mm.
trades, forcing things that are really not there. And that will probably cause losses. That's one way to kind of break it down.
If you could actually go back in time and give yourself advice, we're 2020, right before you start to quit. What advice would you give yourself, and why?
Just keep doing what you're doing, and if things are working and you're making money, and you feel like you okay, now is the time to quit. But it all depends how much you have saved. Maybe it's, the individual have 2 years saving money and they really want to take this serious, or maybe 1 year is good enough for them. But if the individual, it's like younger, obviously, he can take more risk. If his individual is older, he have kids and a family, you know,
What are you? Are you, say, younger, old? What were you at 2020?
I was
Kids, family?
early
Where were you
30s.
at in life?
I'm 36 now.
Oh, okay, same age.
Yeah, so you know, wasn't married. I didn't have kids, but kind of like couldn't afford just to risk it all and just go for it at the same time, because I have bills to pay and everything. So I did have 1 year saved up, to be able to live comfortable. So that kind of helped. Um, but someone who's in their 20s, and in their early 20s, and don't really have that many bills and stuff, they can force themselves to risk a little bit more. But
Yeah,
someone who has kids, a family, and everything,
that's
I
tough.
think it just becomes a lot harder for them to just to quit their job, concentrate on this full time, because it's not as easy as it looks.
It's not. It's not. And what's funny is it can feel very easy at times.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's only because of one thing. It's not because Juan here knows what he's doing better than you and I and anyone else. It's just because he's sticking to his plan, his rules, and your setup, right? Like, it's not because you know what's going to happen. Could you talk about probabilities and how the odds play out, and how like, just because you have a setup that works, if you don't mind sharing what your
Hmm.
percentage is of working on that setup, then does that mean to you like I'm always going to win, or you can expect winning every day? Could you share that a little bit?
Yeah. So if I have a setup and someone else wants to do it, um, it doesn't mean it's gonna work for them. It's the same thing happened. It's kind of like following trades. I think you have to take someone else ideas and make your own kind of setup. It could be very similar. Um, for instance, some people like to, uh, if we look at what I do, it's like some people just would feel really scared buying this high. I mean, this stock was 4 cents and over here was 11 cents. So that's like over 100%. And they wouldn't feel comfortable. And, if they don't feel comfortable buying that high, then that can gonna affect your trading. You could panic on a slight, downtrend or something like that. And for me, it works because I've seen a lot of these that I know for a fact there's a pretty good chance that this is not going to fail. This
Mm-hmm.
likely is going to gap up.
Two things with your strategy of trading after hours, you have to watch that, right? Like, because you can't put a stop, can you
Oh
not?
yeah. If I'm gonna buy something after hours, especially this, I'm gonna be here till 8 p.m.
Yeah, yeah,
And,
yeah.
and if I'm swinging and I'm swinging like, pretty, I didn't sell any and I'm swinging full positions. Um, I try not to get up at 3:30 a.m. I set up on Trade Zero now. I use Trade Zero to swings. They allow to set up sells the night before,
Oh,
just in
nice.
case you don't want to get up that early and that kind of thing. I think it worked out in some of the trades, but usually I get up around like 5 and start like watching it and see what it's doing and everything.
What's your playbook look like now? Like, are you just trading that main setup? Is that your main setup still, or do you have multiple setups you trade now? Or just curious, like, where are you at today?
Yeah, this is the main one, and I'm trying to work on other things as well. Always wanted to be, kind of short sell, but I guess I haven't put a lot of time into it. That I win, I lose, I win, lose. Not very consistent in short selling. But yeah, one of the things that I've been trying to size up and like become better at it is I think on the day trading community they call it reversals or bounce days or the first green days after a run up or several days it comes down and it's gonna bounce sometime. That's one of the things I'm working on and kind of like get better at it and size up on
So
it.
your main focus then would be the this one that we were talking about right now,
Yeah,
gap ups, holding strong, and then you have criteria, of course, like you like to look at market cap, volume, liquidity, and then obviously the sector, and then from there, you determine if you're going to play it, and then you like to sell in the pre-market session.
correct.
So that's very unique, man. Because like what's interesting, I've been trading since right. I think we started around the same, like 2017, 2018, and
Hmm.
no one traded pre-market and after hours back then. And now, like I'm starting to run into quite a few people who trade. I know a lady who just trades pre-market. That's all she trades. And then now I'm
Yeah.
meeting you who trades mostly after hours. And
Hmm.
it's like because of all the liquidity that's now available, there's so many traders. I think it's this the market's changing again. It's really cool to see that. Do you wish that you didn't find this strategy because you do have to wake up so damn early and stay up so damn late? Like, do you
Yeah,
enjoy
sometimes
that? I'm
I
just
do
curious.
wish that the market would just maybe not so much the after hours, but I kind of wish the pre-market didn't open at 4 a.m.
Yeah,
I kind of wish it was just like, how about 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. 7
yeah,
a.m. is
6 or 7.
fine. And most brokers, you can't really trade before 7 a.m. But a lot of the brokers not allowing. You have to pay fees and stuff for it, but they are allowing before 7 a.m.
Yep.
It does make it hard, on the sleep pattern because your sleep pattern kind of changes and everything. And
What would it be before we start to wrap this up, Juan? And I just have a couple last questions. One of those is, what is your biggest challenge at this moment?
at this moment, I think learning other patterns and becoming successful and better at it. I Because I got so used to trading after hours that sometimes I kind of disregard during market hours, and I kind of lose focus. And because I'm so comfortable in the after hours, that my focus is mostly there and I know exactly what to do. But when it comes to the market hours, I kind of like maybe too many stocks or I'm too late, I'm too early, that kind of stuff. And the consistency is not quite there as I want it to be,
What's your
especially during
plan to
market hours.
improve on that?
Yes, so it's something I'm working on and slow and steady, but we're getting there.
What's your plan to improve on that so others can hear how they should probably approach something when they're trying to improve on a certain section of their trading?
I think narrow down what I'm going to trade and what I'm looking for. Instead of like, trying to find those stocks last minute, narrow it down, be ready for it, have them open, uh, have a setup, and then have a trading plan for each of those stocks. And I understand that I can't really like go and trade, 6, 7 stocks. Like, okay, maybe I just concentrate on 3, have them open, have them kind of thing. So put more focus on one, two, or max of three stocks than a bunch of them.
If you don't mind sharing real quick, because you're on Kinfo, correct? I know you like to share that publicly.
Yeah,
So you've recently crossed, if you don't mind sharing with everyone, what was that number?
I crossed 400 not too long ago, and I think I'm pretty close to 500 now.
You know, what's interesting about that, and the reason I bring that up is I want to know, when it comes to crossing these milestones for yourself, do you focus on that? Is that something you focus on? Or is it something you try to avoid looking at? Just curious, like how you view that when it comes to your trading.
It's nice to look at it, but I'm not focused on that as much. I didn't even realize it was 400 already. At the end of the day, it's just the process and specific patterns and how profitable you are this pattern. Am I able to increase the risk? Am I being consistent with it?
What I'm trying to find out is with someone who is doing well right now in this market and people watching this, I want them to hear that, not every day, even if you trade your best, is would you say not every day is going to be a green day for you, or sometimes you don't even trade?
Oh, definitely not a green day every day. 2 days ago on Wednesday, I kind of traded a few things. I lost. I got a small loss, another like three or four trades, and I'm like, okay, well, nothing's really working. I look at the market and just kind of like didn't really trade after that. Uh, I think the more experienced you are, you kind of start understanding, um, things gonna work or not work. But again, it all depends on the pattern because
Yep.
going back, sometimes I do a trade. Okay, it's not really working. Nothing's working. And I come back an hour later and the stock is up a lot. And then maybe I should have just stayed there and, give it a little more time or try one more time. But it's hard to say. I mean, but I do know for a fact that not every day is going to be green day. Not every week is going to be, you know, bull market. Like last month, I know last month was really good for me, but I do understand that the sector was slowing down. Things, it has to be. We were during the euphoria kind of time, and it's not gonna last. We just don't know how long it's gonna last. But I think one of the biggest examples, it was 2022 when March, we had the oil energy sector just went
Mm-hmm.
crazy with the war in Russia and Ukraine started, and all those stocks went, and all those stocks like I was just buying, and everything was gapping up, gapping up. That was like for 3 weeks. And April came, and I lost it all, or I lost a big chunk of it because
Yeah.
the market completely dried out, and I was kind of, trying to trade and this and that, but things, I wasn't very tight on my criteria and gave it a shot. So that's kind of, understanding that kind of thing. When things slow down, you don't need to push it. When things are really
Yep.
hot, okay, now's the time to like kind of increase your risk.
How do you handle that mentally when that happens? Because it's going to happen to a lot of traders who are watching this. Like, how did you mentally handle that, and how did you feel when that did happen?
It sucks. I mean, it definitely
Yeah.
does. Because coming in from big wins, and then another loss, and it's mentally you kind of have to understand. Okay, it's time to step back and just relax. You don't need to trade everything now, and me be more precise. The same thing with the market. It's in a not as hot, and we're not in a hot sector. You need to be very tight with your criteria, precise on your trades. Cut your losses. And don't try to hold on to them. And if you have a max loss, this doesn't mean you have to hold,
Yeah.
or
It
maybe
doesn't mean you
take
have to go
profits
for it.
a little bit sooner.
Well, look, Juan, look, I've been asking you tons of questions, man. I know people are going to have questions for you as well. Is there any way that people can connect with you or find you online?
Yeah, I mean, I have Twitter, but I only use it to look at other stuff, but I don't really follow it as much. But I do have a Twitter account, and maybe in the near future, I'm gonna start posting stuff in there.
Well, we'll put your Twitter account in the link below. So that way people, if maybe they'll reach out to you.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, Juan, I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your story today and some of the things that you've been learning and what you're focusing on to improve. And again, thank you, brother, for being here and giving us that insight.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for finishing today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below of one of the takeaways that you are going to implement into your own trading. And if you happen to be listening on a podcast platform, go ahead and leave us a review and let us know what you enjoy about today's episode, because that does go a long way in helping us continue to grow. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.